Hello, classmates. Today, we begin to study the third trade protection theory, strategic trade protection theory. We will focus on the following three issues. First, background. The increase in globalization in trade and finance in recent years has been accompanied by considerable dialogue on country competitiveness and the role of government policy in promoting success in an ever smaller economic world. Policy discussions often centered on ways what industrial policy government could elect to promote high wage, high value added, or high technology industries. It was argued that if successful, these policies would result in the involvement of new competitive advantage products, which keep the country competitive in the emerging global marketplace. Second, basic view. Under the background, strategic trade protection theory occurred in the 1980s, which was originally proposed by Spencer and Blender. This argument identifies the market failure that justifies government intervention as the lack of perfect competition. Spencer and Blender point out that there are only a few firms in effective competition in some industries. Because of the small number of firms, the assumptions of perfect competition do not apply. In particular, there will typically be excess returns. That is, firms will make profits above what equally risky investments elsewhere in the economy can earn. Thus, there will be an international competition over who gets these profits. Spencer and Blender notice that it is possible for a government to alter the rules of the game to shift these excess returns from foreign to a domestic firm. In the simplest case, a subsidy to domestic firms by deterring investment and the production of foreign competitors can raise the profit of domestic firms by more than the amount of the subsidy. Setting aside the effect on consumers, this capture of profits from foreign competitors would mean the subsidy raise national income at other countries' expense. The Blender-Spencer analysis can be illustrated with a simple example in which there are only two firms competing, each from a different country, which is called a duopoly. It does mean that each firm can set the price and the quantity of its output based on the price and the quantity decision of the other firm. Let's call the firm Boeing and Airbus, and the countries, the United States, the Europe. Suppose there is a new product, an aircraft, that both firms are capable of making for simplicity. Assume that each firm can make only a yes, no decision, either to produce aircraft or not. Look at table 1. We use game theory. The modeling of strategic game between firms as they choose action that will maximize their returns. In the payoff matrix, each row corresponds to a particular decision by Boeing, each column to a decision by Airbus. In each box, there are 2 entries. The entry on the lower left represents the profit of Boeing, while that on the upper right represents the profit of Airbus. From the payoff matrix, we can see that if either firm alone manufacture the aircraft, it will attain profit of 100. If both firms manufacture the aircraft, they will suffer a loss of 5, which means Boeing and Airbus technology are identical. So which firm will actually get the profit? It depends on who gets there first. Suppose Boeing gets a small head start and commits itself to produce aircraft before Airbus. Airbus will find that it has no incentive to enter. The outcome will be in the upper right of the matrix, with Boeing earning profits. But according to Spencer analysis, the European government can reverse this situation. Look at table 2. Suppose the European government commits itself to pay its firm a subsidy of 25 if it enters. The result will be to change. In this case, it will be profitable for Airbus to produce aircraft, whatever Boeing does. Even if both companies manufacture the new aircraft, Airbus is now certain of making a profit of 20. The point is this: Boeing will cancel its new aircraft project. The Europe subsidy ensures not only that Airbus will manufacture the new aircraft, but also that Boeing will suffer loss if it joins in. The end result is that Airbus achieves a profit of 125 and can easily repay its subsidy to the European government. If we assume that the 2 manufacturers produce entirely for export, the subsidy of 25 results in a transfer of 100 million in profit from the United States to Europe. That is, the subsidy raises profits by more than the amount of the subsidy itself because of its deterrent effect on foreign competition. The subsidy has this effect because it creates an advantage for Airbus comparable with strategic advantage. In practice, lots of countries have ever, to some extent, observed strategic trade policy, usually giving substantial assistance to high technology industry because it has strategic importance. In the United States, subsidies take the form of low interest loans provided by the Export-Import Bank to foreign firms or governments that want to purchase aircraft from Seattle-based Boeing. On the European side, government support for R&D and other subsidies are given to Airbus, which produces parts and assembles its finished products. In a number of European countries, in Japan, and in South Korea, direct subsidies have been given to high-tech manufacturing firms that achieved a certain target for increasing their export sales. High-tech subsidies are given by many other countries too. In addition to spillover argument for export subsidies, governments and the industry argues that export subsidies might give a strategic advantage to export firms that are competing with a small number of rivals in the international markets. Third, comments on strategic trade protection theory. While the strategic trade policy has attracted much interest, it also received much criticism. First, making practical use of the theory would require more information than is likely to be available. The problem of insufficient information has two aspects. The first is that even when looking at an industry in isolation, it may be difficult to fill in the payoff metrics with any confidence. And if the government gets it wrong, a subsidy policy may turn out to be a costly misjudgment. Suppose, for example, that Boeing has some underlying advantage, maybe a better technology, so that even if Airbus enters, Boeing will still find it profitable to produce. Airbus, however, cannot produce profitably if Boeing enters. In the absence of a subsidy, when Boeing has a cost advantage in aircraft production, Boeing earns profit of 5 when both firms produce, and the profits of 125 when Airbus does not produce. The outcome will be that Boeing produces and Airbus does not. Now suppose that, as in the previous case, the European government provides a subsidy of 25 to induce Airbus to produce. In this case, Airbus' best decision is to produce and to earn a profit of 20 rather than 0. Given that Airbus produces, then Boeing earns a profit of 5 when it produces and 0 when it does not. Both Boeing and Airbus will produce aircraft. We can see because of Boeing's underlying advantage, the subsidy will not act as a deterrent to Boeing. And the profit of Airbus will fall short of the subsidy's value. In short, the policy will turn out to have been a costly mistake. So the desirability of strategic trade policies depends on an exact reading of the situation. The information requirement is complicated by the fact that we cannot consider industry in isolation. If one industry subsidized, it will draw resources from other industries and lead to increase in their costs. Thus, even a policy that succeeds in giving domestic firms a strategic advantage in one industry will tend to cause strategic disadvantage elsewhere. So the government needs to weigh the offsetting effects. Even if the government has precise understanding of one industry, this is not enough, since it also needs an equally precise understanding of those industries with which that industries compete for. Second, strategic trade policies are legacy labor policies that increase the nation welfare at other expense. These policies therefore risk a trade war that leaves everyone worse off. Third, from a political perspective, special interest groups may dictate who will receive government support. Finally, the mere existence of imperfect competition does not guarantee that there is a strategic opportunity to be pursued. Even by an all-knowing government, there must also be continued sources of economic profit with no potential competition to erase them. But the continued economic profits are probably less common than governments think. That's all for this lecture. Thanks for your joining. See you next time.